A new image of Assassin's Creed Red has appeared online, and while it doesn't seem to confirm or show off anything too serious, it does give fans a closer look at the presumed protagonist of the entry. For those unaware, Assassin's Creed Red, which is just its codename and not a confirmed title, is an upcoming open-world RPG entry in the franchise, taking place in the long-requested setting of Japan. Indeed, Assassin's Creed Red appears to be Ubisoft's response to these requests, fulfilling a tease as far back as Assassin's Creed 3. One ISU section of that game showed off an Eye of Horus, which would become Assassin's Creed Origins, an Omega symbol for Greece, which would become Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and a Tori, which was a hint for Assassin's Creed Red, in a way. Either way, this image comes way of Ubisoft writer Pierre Boudreau, who uploaded the image as his LinkedIn banner. It's not clear if this was intentional since it is not official marketing material, it would seem, but the image is still up. The clearest detail is a look at the presumed protagonist's face. She first appeared in the initial announcement for Assassin's Creed Red, yet she was hooded and no one could see her face. This image highlights that especially, while also showing an Assassin's Creed logo on the right-hand side. Although these symbols are usually stylized around the sect, era, and location, this one appears to be a standard logo. It is worth pointing out that it appears some kanji is below the symbol, though it is cut by the banner style as well. According to rumors and leaks regarding Assassin's Creed Red, the game may feature two protagonists. The first, as seen here, is said to be a female shinobi, while the second is an African samurai. The latter could be based on Yasuke, a real African samurai who achieved said rank in 16th century Japan. But whether this is true remains to be seen, given one half of the equation was self-evident with the announcement trailer. As to when Assassin's Creed Red news will drop, it is believed to be the next entry lined up for the franchise after the recent release of Assassin's Creed Mirage. Ubisoft has high hopes for the title given the plethora of requests for this specific setting. An apparent Assassin's Creed Hexe teaser was recently data mined from Assassin's Creed Mirage. The name of the newly unearthed file implies that the cut content was originally planned to be featured following the conclusion of Assassin's Creed Mirage as a post-credits scene. Ubisoft announced Assassin's Creed Hexe in September 2022 with a brief video teaser revealing the game's logo and codename. Nothing else has been shared about the title ever since, with its initial promo prompting the fandom to speculate that the game will be set in 16th century Europe, at the height of the so-called witch trials on the continent. Data miner Slender2 has now uncovered an apparent Hexe teaser in the files of Assassin's Creed Mirage. The 93-second clip features a conversation between two Animus operators that's apparently set in the 22nd century or beyond, as suggested by the fact that one of the characters refers to the 21st century as ancient history during the cutscene. The nameless duo discusses a genetic memory of one of the ISU, possibly the one that constitutes the majority of Assassin's Creed Mirage's story, during the video. While that cryptic conversation is ongoing, the camera calmly pans across the Iraqi desert, landing on top of a soul antenna sticking out from the sand. The removal of this teaser from the latest Assassin's Creed game presumably wasn't a last-minute change, as the video itself is fairly rough around the edges, featuring heavy foliage pop-in and the occasional rock formation suspended in midair. And while that state of affairs indicates the video was cut from the game way before it was completed, there's little doubt about the clip alluding to Assassin's Creed Hexe, as the name of the newly uncovered file is Post-Credits AC Neo Dialogue. For reference, Neo was reportedly the original codename of Assassin's Creed Hexe, which Ubisoft abandoned around the time of the game's 2022 announcement. There are numerous feasible reasons why Ubisoft Bordeaux might have decided to cut this scene from the game. For one, post-credits hints at future series installments have historically been geared toward teasing the next franchise entry, which is currently widely believed to be Assassin's Creed Red, rumored to launch as early as late 2024, instead of Hexe. Alternatively, omitting the teaser from the game might have simply stemmed from Ubisoft's decision not to feature modern-day segments in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Either way, assuming this cut content ends up being canon, then it stands to reason that Hexe will feature some future-day segments, playable or otherwise. While Assassin's Creed Mirage did little to advance the series' modern storyline, Ubisoft should have plenty of opportunities to do so in the future. Not least because the company currently has over half a dozen confirmed new installments in the works. Speaking of Ubisoft, according to a new rumor, Ubisoft has a second Far Cry game in development alongside the previously leaked Far Cry 7. Far Cry remains one of Ubisoft's most popular franchises, and so it's no surprise that new entries in the franchise are on the way. Fans should take these rumors with a grain of salt, but the leaks have come from a source that has proven to be fairly reliable in the past. Insider Gaming previously leaked the existence of Far Cry 7, claiming that the new game will be releasing in 2025 and using the Snowdrop engine as featured in Massive Entertainment's Division games and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. The report indicated that Far Cry 7 will see some major shakeups to the established Far Cry formula, with players having to race against a 72-hour clock to save their kidnapped family members from a dangerous group called the Sons of Truth. If the report is to be believed, family members can be rescued in any order, but they can also be killed, which will change what happens in the story. I've covered this in one of my previous videos in detail about the Far Cry 7 leak. So, go check the video. The Far Cry 7 leaks have yet to be proven, but now a new leak from Insider Gaming has claimed to reveal information on an additional Far Cry project. According to the report, the other Far Cry game is a multiplayer extraction shooter known by the codename Project Maverick. In it, players can expect typical Far Cry gameplay, with players able to craft new gear and helpful items from the resources they gather in the game world. The new Far Cry game will supposedly feature a headquarters where players can stash items for safekeeping, but otherwise the game's permadeath system means players lose everything if they die. Additional details revealed by the Insider Gaming report state that the Far Cry multiplayer game is set in a fictional version of Alaska, and that it will likely be released before Far Cry 7, with April 2025 pointed to as a possible release month. Fans should wait for official information from Ubisoft before getting too invested in the idea of a Far Cry extraction shooter game, but nothing claimed in the Insider Gaming report seems outlandish. If the rumors are true, this wouldn't even be the first time that Far Cry has dabbled in online multiplayer. Most Far Cry games feature co-op of some description, while Far Cry 3 also had traditional competitive multiplayer modes. Ubisoft has had some trouble getting online multiplayer-focused games off the ground in recent years, so even after the official announcement comes, fans may want to keep their expectations in check until the new Far Cry game has actually launched. Or the multiplayer could launch as an in-game package in Far Cry 7. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has unveiled new in-game footage, showing stunning realistic graphics made using Unreal Engine 5. The original Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of the best games Konami ever made, so fans are eager to see if the remake will live up to the hype. Originally announced back in May, Metal Gear Solid Delta is being developed by Konami's in-house team and Virtuos, which made ports for games like Final Fantasy X and Nier Automata. The game is the spotlight of Metal Gear Solid's latest revival, which also includes 2 collections of remasters of older titles. Gamers were able to see a video with in-game footage of Metal Gear Solid 3's remake during Xbox Partner Preview. The video shows Snake sneaking around in the jungle while traversing murky waters and hiding from enemy soldiers in bushes. The clip also includes a few close shots of the local fauna like birds and crocodiles. Overall, it seems that the art design of the game is going for a realistic look. At the end of the trailer, it was also revealed that Metal Gear Solid Delta will be made using Epic's Unreal Engine 5, which was already rumored to be the game's engine. While the graphics are looking good, it's certain that remaking a classic like Metal Gear Solid Delta will not be easy. Hideo Kojima won't work on the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, as he's not been part of Konami for years. At the moment, Metal Gear Solid Delta does not have an official release date, but fans of the franchise still have something to play while they wait. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 was recently released, and it offers good value for the money, despite a few technical issues. Also, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 is coming up in the near future, and a recent leak indicated that Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain will be the titles available as part of the collection. Slender Man is back with Blue Isle Studios' Slender, The Arrival's anniversary update. 10 years since 2013's Slender The Arrival sent shivers down many players' spines with a complete reimaging of Slender the 8 pages. The Slender The Arrival anniversary update brings in some significant changes alongside brand new features. But many longtime fans and newcomers may be curious about what to expect from the horror game 10 years later. Slender Man's comeback brings huge upgrades in the form of a substantial visual overhaul, a brand new story chapter, and some first-time franchise additions in the shape of multiplayer and more. Game Rant recently interviewed Brendan Frank, co-founder and technical director at Blue Owl Studios, about the update's key features, which can give players further information about how the 2023 anniversary update compares with the 2013 edition. One of the main changes in the 2023 Slender The Arrival Anniversary update is the addition of a brand new story chapter, aptly named, The Lost Chapters. Here, players can experience a new kind of Slender Man story, taking the blank trope horror gameplay to both somewhat familiar and new places, as players explore a different kind of atmospheric location. Frank explained that, The Lost Chapters allowed the team to try out some new techniques we've learned over the years, as well as give the fans something new to be excited about. Understandably, Frank didn't go into any further detail, as it's likely something for fans to experience for themselves. However, without going into spoiler territory, players can expect some creepy new horror gameplay tricks, plus additions to the lore. While players can still play Slender The Arrival through single player, another big change in the anniversary update is the addition of multiplayer, enabling the game to be experienced as an online co-op horror game for up to 4 players. Other new additions include a new cross-platform mod kit that lets players create and share their own Slender Man scenarios. That's also just the beginning, with more DLC on the way. Frank also spoke about how the update preserves the original game while adding new features. In addition to the new chapter, the Slender The Arrival 10th Anniversary update also lets players relive the story and gameplay from the original 2013 Slender The Arrival game with a complete visual overhaul. The 2013 game was made in Unity and still holds up pretty well, but Unreal Engine 5.2 brings the experience up to date. Fans can expect to revisit 2013's locations and landmarks while following the same story, such as Kate's house, but with graphical improvements through Unreal Engine 5.2. Including design and atmospheric upgrades. It's another game that showcases the frighteningly realistic capability of Unreal Engine 5 in horror games. In addition to pushing the game's visual fidelity, when speaking with co-founder and creative director Alex Tinter at 2023's Unreal Fest, Frank also talked more about how Unreal Engine's 5.2's Nanite and Lumen technology enabled the team to finally create the horror game experience they always imagined from a visual standpoint, including replacing every art asset from the original to essentially rebuild the entire game from the ground up. Alan Wake 2 is getting a new Game Plus mode that will feature an alternative story, Remedy Entertainment has revealed. The studio's announcement arrived mere hours after Alan Wake 2 preloads became available. The second numbered installment in the Alan Wake series has been in the making for around half a decade in total, with Remedy returning the project to the drawing board at least once. And though the 2010 original and the Alan Wake's American Nightmare spin-off were both primarily action games with horror elements, the upcoming entry goes all in on survival horror. Remedy has now announced that its latest title is set to receive a new Game Plus mode, which will allow players to re-experience the campaign while retaining all of their weapons and upgrades. And while that's pretty much the bare minimum of what constitutes an NG Plus experience, the developers are also planning to incentivize repeated playthroughs of Alan Wake 2 with the offer of an alternative narrative that will be sprinkled throughout new manuscript pages and video content available in this mode. NG Plus will also be the only way to experience the game's Nightmare difficulty level, Remedy has confirmed. Since this newly announced feature is still without a release date, it likely won't debut before the first half of 2024. The addition of New Game Plus to Alan Wake 2 is hardly an unprecedented move for Remedy, as both Alan Wake's American Nightmare and the 2010 original feature such a mode. What's more, the first Alan Wake also locked select manuscript pages behind its Nightmare difficulty, which was only available after beating the game once. However, the wording of Remedy's latest announcement suggests that won't be the case this time around, as the new difficulty level sounds like an optional addition for those craving an extra challenge. Alan Wake 2 will get 2 big expansions and Remedy has already shared the first details of what they will entail. Alan Wake 2 is one of those games that fans assumed would never happen. The first game was a cult classic and spawned a cult classic following after it failed to attract enough sales to get a sequel. Alan Wake suffered the unfortunate fate of releasing alongside Red Dead Redemption, one of Rockstar's best-selling games of all time, and it dominated the talk in the industry at the time. However, those who played Alan Wake championed it and hoped to see the game's cliffhanger ending resolved. Unfortunately, a sequel never got further than a proof of concept in the early 2010s and Remedy moved on to other projects. A decade later, however, the sequel was revived and announced. Now, after all these years, Alan Wake 2 is really damn good. While we have no idea if an Alan Wake 3 will happen, Alan's story will not stop tomorrow. Alan Wake 2 is set to get a variety of DLCs, both paid and premium, and Remedy shared the first details on what the two big expansions will include. The first one, Night Springs, is slated to release late spring 2024, subject to change, and its follow-up expansion, The Lake House, has no release window at the moment. The first expansion, Night Springs, is described as visions and dreams. Fiction is written and coming true. Fiction collapses and remains just words on a page. These are those stories. In Night Springs, play as several familiar characters from the world of Alan Wake and experience the unexplainable in multiple self-contained episodes of Night Springs, a fictional TV show set in the world of Alan Wake. The second expansion, The Lake House, is described as The Lake House is a mysterious facility situated on the shores of Cauldron Lake set up by an independent government organization to conduct secret research until something goes wrong. Explore the Lake House and embark on two separate adventures as the realities of Saga Anderson and Alan Wake collide again. It sounds like one will be more standalone and be a fun adventure in the Alan Wake universe, akin to that of the digital spin-off game, Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Night Springs is essentially a homage to the Twilight Zone, so we may see some pretty wild new stories. The Lake House, on the other hand, may be a proper continuation of Alan Wake 2 and possibly lean more into the connected elements of Remedy's universe with a focus on the Control series. Only time will tell, but it sounds like Remedy is going to keep us fed for a good long while after Alan Wake 2 releases. Hopefully, the game will do well enough and we can get a third game, assuming Remedy has ideas for one. Alan Wake 2's director Sam Lake has recently revealed what he would like to work on next, a high-budget dark gothic fantasy title. While it may be surprising to see Remedy Entertainment going into fantasy territory, the true detective-inspired visuals of Alan Wake 2 already have shown that the team is not afraid of trying out new aesthetics. In a recent interview with GQ magazine, Lake talked more about his life, inspirations for games, and the future. At some point in the interview, Lake hinted that he believes he will retire from the gaming industry someday and do something else, but it does not seem to be the time for that yet. When asked about what other stories he wanted to tell while still in the industry, he revealed that it would be something very different from Alan Wake 2, as he had fresh ideas for a huge-budget, dark gothic fantasy story. While Sam Lake may already be thinking about the future, Alan Wake 2 was just launched, and it still has more content for players coming up soon. Not only is there one paid expansion already confirmed, but Alan Wake 2 will have free DLCs, which are coming up soon. Capcom is developing an upgraded version of its proprietary RE engine that it will soon use for its upcoming and future games. Capcom stated that the next generation of its RE engine would be more capable and efficient than its predecessor. The RE engine has been Capcom's go-to-game engine for its games for quite some time. The game developer started developing its proprietary game engine in April 2014 and debuted it and its capabilities in 2017 when it released Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, to much success. Since then, Capcom used the RE engine for its other games, such as Monster Hunter Rise, Devil May Cry 5, and more recently, Street Fighter 6 and the Resident Evil 4 Remake. However, the powerful yet flexible game engine may be starting to show its age after 6 years of service. Capcom may soon need a more capable and efficient engine in its future games. As such, Capcom, in a presentation published on its R&D YouTube channel intended for developers, revealed it is developing a next-generation version of the RE engine. According to the game developer's presentation, the next-generation RE engine, codenamed REX, RE Next Engine, will address the RE engine's various issues which Capcom found during its operation. As such, the REX engine will have a high degree of customization per game and be more efficient in handling large volumes of large-size assets. It will also come with better documentation, samples, and tutorials, and support for multiple languages for the convenience of Capcom's overseas subcontractors. Okami Games, the first to report about the REX engine, added that it will have the RE engine's features while being capable of supporting new technologies, of which there are 8. Capcom noted that it will introduce its upcoming REX engine to the existing RE engine in phases rather than building a new game engine from scratch. The game developer explained that it will raise the RE engine to the next generation level using this method. Unfortunately, Capcom didn't disclose details of the technologies of its upcoming REX engine during the presentation, though it promised to do so at another time. Based on what Capcom revealed in its presentation, it will be some time before the game developer releases a game running the new REX engine. The latest games that will showcase the RE engine's capabilities soon are Dragon's Dogma 2 and a new Monster Hunter game that the game developer will allegedly release sometime in 2024 if rumors are to be believed. Maybe Resident Evil 9 will be the first showpiece of the next REX engine. Sony Interactive Entertainment SVP and head of internal production Connie Booth has left the PlayStation maker, according to a newly emerged report. Booth has been with the conglomerate since 1989, having originally worked at Sony Electronic Publishing Company before joining SIE back when it was still called Sony Computer Entertainment in 1995. Booth has hence worked at Sony's gaming division since the original PlayStation console was less than a year old. She spent the majority of her time at the company in senior leadership positions, having first been appointed executive producer in 1997 before being promoted to director of product development a year later. She was then elevated to a senior director role in 2007 before becoming the department's VP in 2012. Booth served as the SIE SVP and head of internal production since 2020. The executive oversaw the production of many titles, such as Crash Bandicoot, Ratchet and Clank, Infamous, and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Her stint at the gaming giant has now come to an end, according to David Jaffe, a former SIE employee best known as the creator of the God of War series. In an October 23 video posted on his YouTube channel, Jaffe reported that Booth left SIE earlier this year, citing multiple sources familiar with the matter. Although the circumstances leading to her purported departure from the company are unclear, Jaffe relayed several insider accounts suggesting she was fired. Moreover, her team was supposedly walked out of the building as part of that supposed fallout. While the insider admitted to being uncertain about whether those accounts of her departure are overly dramatic, he insisted that Booth is definitely no longer at SIE. The claim itself is said to have been corroborated by two current Sony officials, as well as two external sources. Jaffe also reported that Booth was replaced by PlayStation Studios VP and head of development strategy Angie Smets. The Netherlands-born executive has been in her current role since April, when she left Horizon developer Guerrilla Games following a 20-year stint at the studio. High-level executive changes at companies the size of Sony are commonly communicated to the public with little delay, or even in advance, at least when they happen on amicable terms. The most recent example of that practice at SIE is PlayStation boss Jim Ryan's retirement announcement from late September. Sony or Booth did not provide a reason for the exit. In a statement sent to Axios, a PlayStation spokesperson said, "She helped drive the success PlayStation Studios is experiencing today. And her passion in fostering an environment where a team's creative vision could fully flourish has left a positive impact on many game developers." Sony Interactive Entertainment head of internal production Connie Booth was fired over the company's growing focus on making live service PlayStation games, according to a newly emerged report. The PlayStation maker started pivoting toward live service games in 2022, having publicly stated as much on several occasions. Its strategic shift toward this brand of interactive experiences started with the $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie, which previously pioneered the contemporary games as a service, GAAS, business model with the Destiny series. But Sony's transition toward live service games has so far been anything but smooth, having reportedly been responsible for Booth's departure from the gaming giant, among other difficulties. That's according to David Jaffe, a former SIE employee and God of War creator who previously broke the news of the executive's firing. In an October 25 video posted to his YouTube channel, Jaffe provided some clarification on his original scoop, having asserted that Booth's removal from the company started with Sony's pivot toward live service PlayStation games. Many SIE studios were reportedly unhappy with that directive, not least because they previously spent decades working on cinematic single-player experiences, thus feeling that the company's leadership was no longer using them to their strengths. The discontent is said to have reached unprecedented heights with the recent cancellation of The Last of Us multiplayer game, which still hasn't been officially confirmed. Nevertheless, the company-wide dissatisfaction was somehow blamed on Booth, Jaffe reports, citing two unnamed sources familiar with the matter. SIE's longtime executive, who also served as its senior vice president since late 2020, was consequently fired with little notice, as per the same report. It's understood that the vast majority of her team also left the company by now, although it's unclear whether those additional departures were a result of firings, protest resignations, or both. It's equally fuzzy who pulled the trigger on Booth's purported termination. Jaffe reports that PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst was allegedly in favor of cutting the company's Japanese studios in the past, speculatively suggesting how that might have prompted a clash with Booth. Sony is reportedly looking to scale back on its plans for games as a service, despite having invested billions of dollars in the genre. That's at least according to Reset-era member Head on the Block, who claims that companies including Sega and Bandai Namco are helping Sony out, with the former supposedly working on an IP that'll wipe the floor. Furthermore, the anonymous user claimed that Sony had forced a number of first-party developers to work on online projects, and is now scaling back and is using third-party to catch up on some IPs. One of Sony's major pushes towards GAAS came with its acquisition of Destiny developer Bungie, and had previously confirmed plans to release 12 live service games by the fiscal year ending March 2026. Much of these decisions came under leadership from departing PlayStation head honcho Jim Ryan, who reportedly left a number of PS studios feeling uncomfortable. As such, it is very possible that Sony's decision to scale back on its GAAS plans comes as a result of Ryan's impending departure. Sega and Bandai Namco have a history working with Sony, so that part of this leak makes sense. As far as live service, you all know I don't want them. So, PlayStation sticking to its single-player roots is what I want. We'll see what happens next year and moving forward. Speaking of layoffs, the PlayStation-owned visual arts studio was recently confirmed to have been hit with a wave of layoffs, seeing several senior designers departing the Sony support studio. While many fans may be more familiar with first-party studios of PlayStation Studios, support studios play a vital role in the production of many of gaming's most popular titles. PlayStation Studios' visual arts group helped Sony with some of the developers' biggest release since the support studio was established in 2007. The visual arts group typically works with Sony's first-party developers on major game releases, including Naughty Dog and Santa Monica Studio among others. Visual Arts Group was also majorly involved in the release of The Last of Us Part 1 last year, originally working on the project before Naughty Dog took over development. Now, PlayStation Studios' Visual Arts Group is parting ways with several employees. News of the layoffs at Visual Arts Group would surface with several former employees for the studio announcing their departure. Former senior-level designer Daniel Belmere would announce his departure from Visual Arts Group, citing a wave of layoffs at the support developer. Belmere had previously worked at Ubisoft as a world designer for several major projects including Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Immortals Phoenix Rising. Other former employees like rigging artist Sean Teo and senior technical recruiter Matt Barney also confirmed their departure from Sony. While the layoffs at Visual Arts Group affect several senior members of the gaming industry, they are far from the first in recent memory. 2023 has seen several waves of layoffs across many of the biggest developers throughout the gaming industry. Epic Games would shed a staggering 870 employees last month, while CD Projekt Red would reportedly cut roughly 9% of its workforce. Even the biggest companies in gaming have not been safe from layoffs and shedding salaries, with Microsoft laying off over 10,000 employees throughout the year. It's unclear how many staff have been impacted by the redundancies at this stage. A first wave of layoffs took place at Visual Arts in May, according to former project coordinator John Borba, who wrote on LinkedIn that there was restructuring within the studio then, and that he was among the people let go to support budgetary needs. Acclaimed PlayStation studio Media Molecule is laying off approximately 20 employees. A UK game developer, renowned for its creative and imaginative titles, is making a reduction in its workforce that will affect a significant portion of the employees at Media Molecule. Media Molecule is a respected name in the gaming industry, known for its innovative and artistic approach to game development. The studio has a remarkable portfolio that includes titles such as Little Big Planet and Dreams, a game where players can create their own games. However, despite Media Molecule's acclaimed work and contributions to the PlayStation platform, it seems that it has not been immune to the challenges and fluctuations faced by the industry. Media Molecule is laying off approximately 20 employees. The studio, whose decision joins another PlayStation-owned company in its wave of layoffs, aims to reduce its headcount from around 135 employees to 115. According to the source, the news was delivered to the employees during an internal meeting on October 24th. Media Molecule also made a statement on Twitter in which it mentioned significant strategic changes during the past year that have led to this decision. We have had to make the difficult decision to begin the consultation process for team members within certain departments of the studio. Media Molecule assured that it will provide its best support to the impacted employees during this process. Media Molecule bid farewell to its co-founder earlier this year, an announcement that came in the same month that the company revealed that, despite the initial success of Dreams, it would stop supporting it. While the specifics of Media Molecule's decision remain undisclosed, it underscores the complex landscape facing both game developers and the larger gaming industry. The studio is looking to get its current headcount of 135 employees down to about 115. The news of layoffs at Media Molecule serves as a reminder that even studios known for their creative brilliance must navigate the ever-evolving terrain of the gaming world. The company has stated its commitment to supporting the Dreams community and will share information about future plans at a later time. Media Molecule's future announcements will be watched closely. It's the fourth Sony-owned studio to experience layoffs in recent months, with Pixel Opus shut down in May, Naughty Dog laying off dozens of contractors and principal monetization designer leaving earlier this month, and support studio Visual Arts affected by redundancies just yesterday. During May, independent studio Deviation Games, which was working with Sony on an original title, reduced its staff by 90 employees. It is sad to see these smaller studios getting shut down and layoffs. Bungie has been hit layoffs, several recently terminated staffers have revealed. The Bellevue, Washington-based company hence became the fourth Sony subsidiary that pulled the trigger on workforce cutbacks since the turn of October. The latest Sony subsidiary to be hit with layoffs is Bungie, Kotaku reports, citing social media posts from several newly terminated staffers. The full extent of the cutbacks is unclear, as the Sony-owned studio has yet to officially confirm the redundancies. Bungie employed approximately 1,600 staffers before this late October round of layoffs, according to publicly available LinkedIn data. The cutbacks were independently confirmed by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who obtained a copy of an internal memo from Bungie CEO Pete Parsons promising to discuss this turn of events at an October 30th company meeting. This development further underlines how October has been a troubling month for Sony subsidiaries. The company recently delayed the upcoming Destiny 2 expansion The Final Shape to June 2024 and the New Game Marathon to 2025, sources told Bloomberg. The recent news of Destiny 2 developer Bungie laying off staff has come as a massive surprise to the studio's fanbase, and new sources have revealed that the decision to terminate staff was made directly by Bungie management rather than Sony, who officially acquired the studio earlier in July 2022. Bungie's decision to cut back staff took much of the industry by surprise following a report from Kotaku, with various big names such as art director Lorraine McLeese, community manager Liana Ruppert, and even Destiny 2 composer Michael Salvatori confirmed to have been laid off from the studio per individual statements made across social media. Unsurprisingly, the loss of such key figures within Destiny 2's development and production teams has produced serious concern among the game's fanbase, with many now fearing for the future of the franchise. While there has not yet been any official confirmation from the studio, Bungie is reportedly expecting to delay the release of Destiny 2's upcoming expansion, The Final Shape, to June of 2024 amid the recent layoffs. Rumors also suggest that the studio's upcoming extraction shooter and reboot Marathon is also expected to be delayed until 2025. Bungie is currently working on a reboot of its sci-fi FPS series Marathon, as well as a team-based action game that's still awaiting an official announcement. There is currently no indication that either project will be affected by these recent layoffs, especially since the company is currently also looking to fill nearly 24 open positions in its art, engineering, game design, and narrative departments, among others, according to its official careers page. Unfortunately for fans of discs and video game box art, a new report claims that Best Buy will stop selling all physical media as soon as early next year. This comes after another report made headlines earlier this year claiming that physical game sales are down considerably. If true, Best Buy wouldn't be the first store to make this sort of move. A major UK retailer announced it will stop selling physical games in stores earlier this year. With the rise of digital sales, the retailer is claiming physical games are no longer profitable for them. If recent reports are true, it seems as though Best Buy could be taking things a step further. Online publisher The Digital Bits is claiming to have heard from multiple sources that Best Buy is planning to stop selling all physical media as soon as Q1 2024. According to the report, not only will Best Buy stop selling physical media in-store, but they will also be ceasing sales of such products online. This also applies to Blu-rays, DVDs, 4K Ultra HD discs, and collectible steelbooks. It should be noted, however, that the retailer has still yet to confirm or deny the story. If factual, it would leave Walmart, Target, and Amazon as the biggest retailers to carry physical media. Best Buy potentially pulling out of the fight is surprising, however, since they're the only electronic dedicated retailer out of the bunch. Obviously, this is concerning for fans of physical media, but digital media stores have closed, as well. Nintendo made headlines earlier this year as it shut down their 3DS and Wii U eShops. This means the only way to obtain 3DS and Wii U titles is by purchasing physical copies, but now, fewer stores are actually carrying them. As critics of digital-only gaming say, it's just as much a preservation problem as anything else. A recent study shows that a very low percentage of classic games are commercially available. Obviously, this is a larger issue for retro titles, but current-gen games are only current for a relatively short period of time. According to a recent claim, Walmart could be phasing out physical Xbox game sales soon. This claim was made by John Firehurst, the CEO of Limited Run Games on Twitter, whose company specializes in creating physical game releases or re-releases for digital or older games. He explains that he recently heard rumors on how physical Xbox game sales are being phased out first, with other platforms being cut in the future. Firehurst expects this trend to continue into 2024, with other retailers potentially following suit in the future. Firehurst also took the time to answer questions from concerned gamers about the consequences this has taken, explaining retailers are having a harder time making in-store Xbox game sales, expecting this department to be reduced in scope over time. One user on Twitter, for example, explains that their Walmart was barely ordering any Xbox games, with these orders stopping soon, which Firehurst corroborates on how that lines up with what he heard. He also predicts that Microsoft might be the one to first drop out of distributing physical game discs altogether, as some retailers have already stopped selling physical Xbox games. Physical gaming media in Japan still sells particularly well, especially with Nintendo games. PlayStation also has a bigger physical presence in Europe and Japan. Firehurst expects Nintendo will continue selling for the physical format for another few console generations, noting that most of the sales from limited run games are on Nintendo platforms. He also expects specialized gaming retailers like mom-and-pop shops to make a resurgence in order to fill the niche for gamers who prefer physical releases. Microsoft will ban the use of unauthorized third-party accessories on Xbox starting on November 12, 2023. This decision may prove controversial among Xbox players, considering that some gamers often use unlicensed controllers, headsets, and other gadgets to play. Up until now, gamers could use unauthorized accessories on Xbox just fine, but many gamers are now seeing messages affirming that the connected accessory is not authorized when using these devices. The message reveals that, while gamers may still use their unlicensed controllers for now, they will no longer be able to on November 12 onwards due to error 0x82D60002. The official reason given by the company is that unauthorized hardware compromises the gamer's experience, therefore, it'll be blocked. We all know that's not always true. Microsoft's new policy is expected to come into full effect from November 17. Some affected controllers are already unable to connect with Xbox consoles. At present, the vast majority of third-party controllers for Xbox consoles are wired, although the first wave of official third-party wireless devices was released earlier this year. Even headsets are only able to work with Xbox if they receive approval and a special security chip from Microsoft. However, the likelihood is that manufacturers who paid for the official Xbox license will not face any issues. The list of authorized Xbox accessories Microsoft linked to in its error message includes devices from PowerA, Thrustmaster, PDP, Razer, Nacon, Turtle Beach, and more, suggesting products from these companies will be usable after November 17. Ubisoft released its first-half earnings report, posting revenue growth, which the firm attributed to its latest releases and back catalog performances. Here's what you need to know for the company's 6 months ended September 30th. Revenue was €836 million, up 14% year-on-year. Ubisoft's revenue growth was attributed in part to the September launch of racing sim The Crew Motorfest and pre-shipments for the early October launch of Assassin's Creed Mirage. The firm highlighted series record unit sales for the racer, while it said that Mirage has had a solid launch with user numbers in line with Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. According to the publisher, Assassin's Creed Mirage is Ubisoft's biggest launch in terms of sales when considering solely PS5 and Xbox Series. During the announcement, the company also revealed some interesting numbers about the first week of the game. It also acknowledged the Q2 performance of its back catalog of titles. Rainbow Six Siege, for example, grew its net bookings by approximately 50% during the 6 months. In its first quarter earnings report, Ubisoft provided an outlook for Q2 net bookings of about €350 million, but it wound up reporting net bookings of €547 million for the quarter, up 32.5% year-over-year. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot said, "Ubisoft delivered an excellent second quarter, well above our expectations. Activity was mostly driven by the performance of our back catalog, thanks in particular to the remarkable growth of Rainbow Six Siege, in an overall competitive environment for first-person shooter games." The executive also acknowledged the approval of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard and Ubisoft's role. Back in August, it acquired the cloud gaming rights for all Activision Blizzard games to address the CMA's concerns about Microsoft's dominance in cloud gaming. He said, "October saw the finalization of a major agreement with Activision Blizzard, which will grant Ubisoft the perpetual streaming rights for Call of Duty and all other existing Activision Blizzard console and PC titles as well as those releasing over the next 15 years. Additionally, Ubisoft described its cost reduction plan as on track. Its global staff numbers are 19,410 as of the end of September 2023. Last year, its worldwide employees numbered 20,729. The games firm added that employee retention improved in that year's time. As for what the publisher has up next, Ubisoft's releases for the fiscal year include Assassin's Creed Nexus VR, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Just Dance 2024 edition, and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The firm added that its seafaring title Skull and Bones is poised to launch between January and March of 2024. Free-to-play titles, Rainbow Six Mobile, The Division Resurgence, and X-Defiant, are set to launch by the end of the fiscal year. Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Red is also supposed to come out next year. Ubisoft aims to earn €610 million in net bookings for Q3. Capcom has released the results for the first half of its fiscal year, with net sales rising to $498 million, thanks in part to the launch of Street Fighter VI. The publisher's digital contents division, which handles its video games business, saw net sales of €61.3 million, $407.6 million, for the 6 months ended September 30, 2023. This marks a new H1 record for the company, as well as a year-on-year increase of 70%. It also saw 5 games sell more than 1 million units, led by the 2.47 million achieved by Street Fighter VI, which launched in June. Overall business net sales was ¥74.9 billion, $498 million, up 53% year-on-year. Capcom reported that both its sales and profits are up year-on-year, due primarily to strong performance from its digital contents division. This segment sold 22.6 million units of Capcom's titles during the 6-month period, up from the 21.3 million achieved in the same period of the previous year. In addition to the 2.47 million units sold for Street Fighter VI, Capcom highlighted the success of Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 1 and Volume 2, which launched in April and sold 1.42 million units. Meanwhile, new IP Exoprimal sold over 1 million units, while the Resident Evil 4 Remake, released in March, shifted an additional 1.66 million units, bringing its lifetime sales to 5.45 million. Capcom noted that the latter was boosted by the release of a free update for PlayStation VR 2. Catalog sales also fared well, accounting for 17.6 million units, up from 16.05 million in the same period last year. Among these, both Resident Evil 2 and Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak sold more than 1 million units during H1. Capcom also had a notable mobile release with the Niantic-developed Monster Hunter Now, which stands at over 10 million downloads since its launch last month. All of this, plus growth in its amusement equipments and arcade operations divisions, puts Capcom on track to achieve its full-year forecast, which remains unchanged. The publisher expects to reach net sales of 140 billion yen, $930.8 million, for the 12 months ended March 30, 2024, as well as 56 billion yen, $372.3 million, for both operating and ordinary income. Capcom announced its intention to launch a significant undisclosed title in March 2024. This revelation has piqued the curiosity of gaming enthusiasts, who are now speculating about the nature of the next major release from Capcom. This revelation emerged during a Q&A session at a Capcom IR presentation, with the information sourced from a translation by Reddit user HZY980512. While the presentation was in Japanese, the translated excerpts shed light on Capcom's strategies for achieving sales goals and their views on the PC market. Capcom's statement highlighted their intention to release an unannounced major title by March 2024, as well as their plan to release Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy in January. This mysterious title, coupled with a plan to boost sales of newly released games like Street Fighter VI and a focus on sales events, is part of their strategy to achieve the goal of selling 45 million copies of console titles. The announcement has sparked lively speculation among the gaming community, as players ponder the nature of this undisclosed major title. Anticipation runs high, with fans expressing hopes for anything from a new Monster Hunter installment to potential revivals of classic Capcom franchises like Dino Crisis, the long-awaited Resident Evil Revelations 3, Dead Rising, or even the creation of a new game. Capcom's decision to release an unannounced major title is sure to keep fans on the edge of their seats, eagerly anticipating further details about the future offerings from the company's iconic franchises. While players anticipate more details about the upcoming Street Fighter VI DLC featuring Ed, in the interim, they should also keep an eye out for upcoming announcements that will unveil this major Capcom release. Angry Birds maker Rovio Entertainment released its earnings report, posting a slight revenue decline. Here's what you need to know for the 3 months ended September 30th. Revenue was 73 million euros, down 6% year-on-year. During the third quarter, 3 of Rovio's biggest games saw decreases in their gross bookings. Angry Birds 2 generated 24 million euros in gross bookings. The figure is a decrease of 17% year-over-year. Trailing a little behind that, Angry Birds Dream Blast's bookings hit 22 million euros, a growth of 27% year-on-year. Angry Birds Friends, the firm's third-largest game, amassed 8 million euros in gross bookings, a dip of 4.6%. Angry Birds Journey's gross bookings dropped by 46% year-over-year to 3 million euros. The firm reported that its daily active users were 3 million for the quarter compared to the 3.1 million figure of last year. Meanwhile, monthly active users numbered 18.3 million, compared to the 18.7 million figure of last year's quarter. CEO Alex Pelletier-Normand addressed not only the firm's market performance but also its expectations as it became a part of Sega. In the third quarter of 2023, Rovio moved on to a new phase, as Sega gained control of 97.7% of Rovio's issued and outstanding shares. While the market dynamics continue to be weaker than last year, we remain disciplined in our own operations and focused on finding out synergies that our life with Sega may entail to bring out the best in Rovio, said Pelletier-Normand. During the quarter, the firm did not release new titles. However, it aims to launch Moomin Puzzle and Design in the first quarter of 2024. Meta released its financial results for the 3 months that ended September 30th, with its VR division performing at a loss. Revenue for Meta as a whole is $34 billion, up 23% year-on-year. For the Reality Labs division, revenue was $210 million, down 26% year-on-year. 3-month operating loss of $3.74 billion, compared to $3.67 billion in same quarter last year. Meta may have done well overall in the third quarter, but the AR/VR division Reality Labs continues to be a drag on the company. With Reality Labs operating losses already at $11.5 billion through the first 9 months of the year and 22% deeper than at the comparable point of 2022. It's not surprising the company said it expects the division to finish the year with a worse bottom line than last year. However, Meta is not backing down off its VR/AR ambitions, as the company said it expects Reality Labs operating losses in 2024 to increase meaningfully year-over-year due to continued investments and product development efforts. While revenues for Reality Labs were down, Meta may have help on the way. The tech firm launched its new VR headset, the Meta Quest 3, on October 10th, a little over a week into the company's fourth quarter. During the quarter, Facebook's monthly active users grew by 3% year-on-year to 3 billion, whereas daily users increased by 5% to 2 billion. We had a good quarter for our community and business. I'm proud of the work our teams have done to advance AI and mixed reality with the launch of Quest 3, Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, and our AI studio, said Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. The report forecasted that, for Q4 2023, Meta expects revenue to range between $36 billion and $40 billion. Microsoft has released the results for the first quarter of its financial year, showing a mixed start for its gaming business in spite to the launch of Starfield and the inherent impact on Xbox Game Pass. For the 3 months ended September 30, 2023, the company reported total revenues of $56.6 billion, up 13% year-on-year, including $13.7 billion, up 3%, from the more personal computing division, which includes Xbox. Xbox content and services revenue rose 13% year-on-year, driven in part by the launch of Starfield, although hardware sales were down 7%. Overall gaming revenue was up 8%. In its investor call around the results, Microsoft talked up the impact of Starfield on the growth of its Xbox division. More than 11 million people have played the game so far, with nearly half the hours played being on PC. Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood reported that Starfield's launch day set a new record for the most new Xbox Game Pass subscriptions in a single day. This fed into better-than-expected subscriber growth for Game Pass during the quarter, with the subscription service also seeing a new record for the number of hours played per user. Microsoft did not provide a detailed breakdown of the RPG's performance by platform, which is consistent with the company's reporting practices. Xbox content and services saw more growth in the most recent quarter than it did in any quarter last year, driven by growth in first-party content and Xbox Game Pass. During the investor call, Microsoft execs also discussed the initial impact of the Activision Blizzard acquisition, which closed last month. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was highlighted as a key first-party release for the next quarter, with regular reminders to investors that Activision games will now come under first-party revenue rather than third-party, which will impact expected figures for both in future results. Microsoft also noted that the IP owned by Activision Blizzard means Xbox now has $13 billion franchises, including Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Diablo, and Warcraft. Sarah Bond is the new Xbox president, according to a newly leaked Microsoft memo. The appointment was announced as part of a wider leadership shakeup at the conglomerate's gaming division that also elevated Microsoft Studios head Matt Booty to a new position. 2023 saw Microsoft continue its aggressive gaming investments, most famously with the addition of Activision Blizzard to its ever-growing family of studios. Following the recent completion of the $68.7 billion transaction, Microsoft now operates 3 autonomous game publishing arms: Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax Media, and Xbox Game Studios. With the blockbuster buyout of Activision Blizzard out of the way, the conglomerate has now moved to shaking up its gaming division C-suite, starting by elevating Xbox corporate vice president Sarah Bond to the position of president. Matt Booty, who previously headed Microsoft Studios, was promoted to president of game content and studios as part of the same management overhaul. Both will report directly to Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, as revealed by Spencer's internal memo obtained by The Verge. Spencer also disclosed that Microsoft Chief Marketing Officer Chris Capicella is stepping down after 32 years at the company, and will be replaced by Takeshi Nomoto, another Microsoft veteran of 26 years. Furthermore, Microsoft Corporate VP Yusuf Mehdi has been elevated to Executive VP, which is a role he'll fill alongside his regular duties as the consumer CMO. Microsoft's consumer sales organization led by Ami Silverman will be merging with the company's gaming division as part of the same restructuring. Spencer explained that this team will be tasked with finding new audiences and transforming Xbox game sales across the globe. Finally, Microsoft Corporate VP of Xbox Game Player Services Dave McCarthy has been selected as the new Microsoft Gaming CMO. Bond's appointment as the president of Xbox sounds like the potentially most significant change of the lot. Not least because the former head of Xbox Creator Experience and Ecosystem will now be tasked with overseeing all gaming platform work at the company, including hardware research and development. For the first time in 3 years, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella's pay targets did not include a specific growth milestone for Xbox Game Pass. A Microsoft SEC filing, spotted by Axios, instead shows Nadella's only games-related performance-based incentive for the fiscal year ended June 30. 2023 was to grow Xbox content and services revenue by 4.4%. Over 95% of Nadella's annual target compensation opportunity is performance-based. The Xbox target only accounted for 10% of his performance-based pay targets, with the largest category being to grow Microsoft's cloud revenue, which was weighted at 30%. Xbox's revenues did not meet the 4.4% growth target, instead only growing by 0.7%. Axios analysis shows that Nadella previously had targets based on the subscriber growth of Xbox Game Pass. Last year, Microsoft aimed for 73% growth in Game Pass subscribers, but the actual result was 28%. The filing lists Nadella's total cash and stock compensation for the 12 months ended June 30, 2023 at $48.5 million. Axios noted this is down from $54.9 million in the previous year. Speaking of which, Hood labeled the quarterly growth of Microsoft's subscription service as better than expected, suggesting that the platform finally returned to what the conglomerate deems is adequate performance. As a reminder, Xbox Game Pass missed its last 2 subscriber goals. A less optimistic interpretation of Hood's insight is that Microsoft simply lowered its internal targets until the service managed to hit them. Seeing how this is the first year in the last 3 that CEO Satya Nadella's compensation isn't tied to Xbox Game Pass growth, that theory is not without evidence, however circumstantial. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.